Before I said, ever occurred to you that maybe God made the world a way that when people do something wrong, the weather reacts, so God saw it ahead of time and said, they're going to do this, and so this is what's going to happen. Just like they say in Revelations that, because of man's behavior, the world is, these disasters are going to happen, the end of the world is going to come, and Jesus is going to return, and so on and so forth. So I'm continuing.
And they're punished, or he knew the weather was going to react a certain way at a certain time, and he knew people were going to go wrong at a certain time. There's nothing that proves...
when I was a kid, I believed in the tooth fairy. And when I was a kid, I believed that unicorns are real, and wizards had powers, and maybe the Smurfs really lived in the forest somewhere. How cool would that be? It's just imagination. You can imagine that God has this grand design, and when the weather acts up, this is a sign from God. I'll look forward to you. People like me, I'm going to be like, nope, no evidence, thus, how can I possibly believe it? How can I possibly? There has been nothing presented to me in my entire life, not since childhood, not in my adult life, and I'm not a young woman, so I'm not your age, I'm probably older than you. There is nothing that has ever been presented to cause me to believe in such a thing. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with my disbelief. Now, obviously, you're not okay with my disbelief. And you think that we're all kind of plotting together to take over the world, and maybe we are. Maybe you should be paranoid of us. Maybe the religious over the next, 50 years will go extinct. People will just abandon it altogether because it doesn't make any sense for a modern age. We're in the 21st century. This isn't the Middle Ages.
Have you ever heard of Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati and the goals that he stated? They were historical fact. There's proof and documents that he stated these goals. One of them was to destroy religion.
Okay, so if that was his agenda, well, we still have religion. Gee whiz, we still have it. It's not gone yet. So, maybe it'll just take a little longer.
It's a
and I don't even think there's any one particular organization or individual. I just think people are they're abandoning it on their own because it no longer makes sense. Look at how much convincing it takes to get people to go to church, to go sit in a pew, to listen to that boring sermon that makes no logical sense anyway. People look at their parents and, it's always do as I say, not as I do, and the same thing applies to when they go to church. People are just abandoning it because it's not relevant anymore.
Okay, let me ask you this. How did the first form of, energy, black space matter, whatever came first, how did it create itself unless it was all-powerful?
I couldn't answer such a question. I'm agnostic to such things. I don't even think about it. I don't even know why it's relevant, why I need to think about it. I'm certainly not worried about, this detail in the sky gonna punch his hole through reality and, give me a chokehold for being a bad girl.
Don't you see how it makes more sense to believe that something all-powerful was first, powerful enough to defy time?
No, it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever to just take that leap of faith. Based on what? Just because other people say so?
Well, it's kind of like when you see somebody with a gunshot wound, the logical conclusion is, hey, this guy was shot with a gun. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. It's the same thing with
not even the same thing. Not even the same thing.
It's the most logical conclusion is how did we get here? And certainly how did it get to this point where there's...
Oh, I don't even think about things like that either. I couldn't care less how we got here. Couldn't care less.
And that is where you go wrong. Most atheists don't have an answer for me either. Most agnostics don't have an answer for me either.
Why do we need to have one? Why does there need to be an answer?
Because that is the trillion-dollar question that proves religion the most logical point of view, the most scientific point of view. Because science is what tells us about the theory of relativity and time and ages and matter and dark matter and so on and so forth.
No, I ain't buying it, brother. No, it's not enough. There's just not enough information to convince me. Like I said, I'll remain agnostic to certain things until such information becomes available. I don't know why that's a big issue for all you believer people. Why can't we just be like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. Totally apathetic towards it. Like, why do we have to worry about such things? Because we're not afraid for our mortal souls? Well, anywho, I'm going to get off of here. I'm pretty much had enough of this and going nowhere. But it was interesting. By all means, make your video. Even do your big sermon that you stuck it to me and you proved me wrong with all your references and all that. I'd like to watch that. It might be entertaining.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so in part 1 went over the picks, the cult, agenda, Satanism, Masonry, validity of the Bible, and more. I think I had the edge in part 1, personally, looking at it from a non-biased point of view. You know, the worst thing I did was simple grammatical errors. She did some too. Who cares, you know, as long as you understand what you're saying. Part 2, we talked about Satanism and conspiracy, wolves in sheep's clothes, I think it says wealthy. I can't read my notes. And Satanism. I believe I had the edge in that one too, because, you know, she kind of ended up proving my point about secret societies controlling things and how they're doing things in God's name. I think I slipped and I said they do it in the name of the church, but, you know, I think we all know what I was really getting at. They're doing things in the name of religion, in the name of monotheism, in the name of Christianity, and when really the real Christians who really follow the philosophy are the best people in the world, and the most corrupt are people who don't, and you know them by their works. And this materialistic kind of selfishness has created pretty much all the problems in the world, this greed. And so that was part 2. Okay, part 3. We talked about risk versus benefit. I think I destroyed her at that point. Selfishness versus selflessness versus selfishness. I think most of us can agree that it's better to be selfless, and it's sad that, you know, that there's people who agree with her. She said that she would love to see the world go to hell. Talk about psychiatry a little bit and how, you know, people like her control the DSM and whatnot. And so then we get to part 4. Again, I think I had the edge in part 3 as well. Part 4 was the wrap-up. We touched on the Illuminati and so on and so forth. And, you know, she tried to make it seem like because religions aren't abolished, that magically the Illuminati agenda isn't into play. And I was thinking it, but I didn't have the time to say it because she kind of ended it abruptly. But this is a long-term plan. If you look at the other agendas of the Illuminati, abolish all ordered governments, abolition of private property, abolition of inheritance, abolition of patriotism, abolition of the family, abolition of religion, creation of a world government. So let's see, have they really accomplished their goals? Well, or are they accomplishing? Do we see signs? Abolition of all ordered governments. We see this kind of globalist world order, and I'll put a Rockefeller quote right here so you can see what I mean. These people admit that they're doing just that. We see the United Nations interfering. We see coalitions and NATO and whatnot. World banks and IMF and World Health Organizations, you know, imposing, you know, sanctions and whatnot. So it pretty much takes away the sovereignty of nation. Do we see abolition of private property? Absolutely. We see people are debt slaves and they're paying mortgages and property tax and whatnot. Do we see abolition of inheritance? Yes, because in IOU, you know, a debt, people leave in a bill instead of a will, and it's not just black people. Do we see abolition of patriotism? Absolutely. Even I said in the videos that I don't see myself as a patriot. I don't support the government because it's so corrupt. So having infiltrated governments and made them despicable to their citizens, you've attacked patriotism, and it's on its way out. Do we see abolition of the family? Absolutely. What do you think communism is? What do you think Planned Parenthood does with killing babies? It's part of the family structure. And feminists saying, I think women need a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and so on. We see, absolutely, we see that. Do we see abolition of a religion? Christianity is starting to lose church attendance and whatnot. We see this rise of mental health and atheism and materialism, and, you know, she's a shining example of that. Absolutely, we see that. You know, it's in the creation, just like the last one, a creation of a world government. Do we see United Nations, you know, bringing in some form of world government? Do we see ourselves on the way toward a world government, you know, as a result of fighting terrorists who go from country to country and exist in all countries? Do we see kind of a world government and a world coalition and a world police force, you know, being developed and already partially developed? Absolutely. So we see these goals coming in. I'm going to end it right there. I know you've listened to a lot of this interview. Thank you for listening. Weigh in the comments. You know, you think she won? You think I won? You know, what points you liked? Say whatever you want to say. You know, don't be surprised when I, you know, go in on you. But, you know, and I kept it polite, just like I said I would. I made a video before I made these interviews, and I made this video right now. I made a video probably a couple hours earlier where I said that I'm going to try to be polite, but I'm going to press her on the exact issues that I did, the secret societies and the pictures and so on. And what I wanted to do, and I didn't get around to doing, was to compare her pictures to the Rothschild pictures. I'm going to do that right now. Thank you. You know, in the pictures of this video. Thank you. Another Satanist with half-truths, who she reminds me of. I've pointed this out in old videos.
Or elevating intellect to such a high level. And I wanted to point out that the reason the Masons did that is because they were protesting against the papacy that burned you at the stake if you didn't worship a God who tortured his own son to death to satisfy his need to punish sinners. Now, why would you not agree that intellect should be elevated above such superstition? And another question is, do you believe that there's no evolution, and do you not believe in a population explosion?